I want to understand whether indeed those were your comments.
Yes, of course. Look, the EFF, like let me tell you something which is a reality and which you can prove in less than 20 days, is that if the EFF doesn't get an outright majority in these elections, we're going to be the second best political party in terms of the electoral support in South Africa. So we have experienced the necessary quantitative growth, and of course accompanied by qualitative growth as an organization.
So,
and we know this.
Mr. Shivambu.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't like the sound of my own voice, but I need to get clarity.
Yes.
In these elections,
yes,
if you are not the largest party, in other words, the ANC is that party right now.
Yes.
If you are not in that spot of number one,
yes,
you're possibly going to occupy that which is occupied by the DA right now. You'll be the second largest political party.
That is exactly what is going to happen. And we must just look into the journey of how we got there. Remember, in our first participation in election, in 2014, we were bigger than the Democratic Alliance in 2 provinces of Northwest and Limpopo. And then in 2019, we then got to be bigger than the Democratic Alliance in Mpumalanga as well, then making it the 3 provinces. And we can tell you now, without any fear of contradiction, that the EFF will be decidedly bigger than the Democratic Alliance in Gauteng province, in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Eastern Cape, of course in the other remaining provinces that they might still get some numerical majority, but not a decisive majority in the Western Cape. But in majority of provinces, we're definitely going to overtake the Democratic Alliance, because we know what we have on the ground now and what we did not have in both 2019 and 2014. So now we've got proper solid structures in all the 23,000 voting districts of South Africa were properly represented. And we know that for you to secure an electoral majority, you need to be present in all corners of South Africa. And the EFF is properly and ably represented in all corners of South Africa. So one thing which you must know is that the EFF will either be number 1 or number 2 in South Africa. That is a reality which you are looking forward to.
So I just want to remind you then, it's not the 2014 election I'm going to use, nor is it the 2019.
Yes.
Those were general elections, which is what we are going to now.
Yes.
2021 local
Yes.
elections. I don't know if you still remember how the EFF said at that time that it was and would take over some of the municipalities in South Africa. And this would not be through a coalition. This was going to be an outright win. That did not happen. So I'm wondering,
So I think,
here, how realistic your predictions are this time around versus what we heard and saw subsequently post the 2021 election.
So you see, the other measure to gauge the EFF success in 2021, one is the fact that in 2016, when we participated in our first local government elections, we had 750 councillors across South Africa. We now have got 1,200 councillors and represented in 95% of municipalities. You cannot finish both hands counting the municipalities which were not represented in South Africa of all the 257 municipalities in South Africa. You can count 2 in KwaZulu-Natal and 2 in the Eastern Cape and about 6 or 7 in the Western Cape. But in the rest of the municipalities, the EFF is firmly represented to demonstrate that we are solidly the only organization of the 3 national organizations which are represented in all provinces that has been showing consistent and dependable systemic growth. And that growth is not being arrested. And by the way, remember that we are still building the organization to have depth and proper representation in all the voting districts. And it's one of the issues that we must have to commend the ground forces of the economic freedom fighters on, that in less than 10 years we have got to achieve a national status, because it's only 3 political organizations in South Africa that are represented in all the provinces and are represented in even more than 80% of municipalities. So the EFF is, of course, a force to be reckoned with, and will demonstrate that much more firmly on the 29th of May when a substantial majority of our people vote for the economic freedom fighters.
Yeah, we're fast running out of time. I've got so much to ask you, but I need to put this question to you because you are the second in command in the EFF and your deployment is in the Eastern Cape province.
Yes, currently, yeah.
Indeed. Is that where you are predicting this large growth that people are going to see come May 29th? Is that part and parcel of where your growth is going to come from?
No, look, we're going to have proportionally well represented growth in all the provinces. But I don't see any province of the EFF declining in terms of the number of votes. Look, we're going to have proportionally well represented growth in all the provinces. But I don't see any province of the EFF declining in terms of the number of votes that were received in 2019. If anything, I don't see any province in terms of the work that we've recorded thus far, which will grow by less than 100% as compared to 2019. I don't see any of the provinces that, because if you can just observe, like remember we organize ourselves at VD level. So if you can have an organization that has got volunteers in all the 23,000 voting districts of South Africa, then you must know that that is an organization that is serious about the electoral work and elections work.
Yeah.
Not even the current official opposition is represented in all the VDs. And we know this because when we then check the audits of the IEC in the voter registration weekends that occurred in November last year and February this year, it was only the EFF and to some extent the ANC, because in a lot of VDs the ANC was not represented in KwaZulu-Natal. But the EFF has demonstrated that it is the only organization that is serious about electoral work and has spread its wings and clutch into all parts of South Africa. And that will be demonstrated when millions of our people come to vote for the economic freedom fighters again on the 29th of May.
I can't not talk about KZN.
Yes.
It is one of the key battlegrounds, and you were initially deployed to that province before your subsequent move to the Eastern Cape. The introduction of the MK party. Are you finding that it is making the EFF lose steam in KZN, or is the picture still the same according to the EFF? You're still finding enthusiasm around the EFF?
Look, do you know, I can tell you this without, do you know, by the time MK party was announced publicly, the EFF had already put in place the voting district elections task forces in all the 4,971 VDs of KwaZulu-Natal, where you have got volunteers, 20 volunteers in each and every VD. And even after the formation of MK, even when we went to the rally on the 10th of February this year, there was never a shift of the constitution and the constituencies that we got to mobilize as volunteers of the EFF. So in terms of the ground forces of the EFF, there's never been a shift. We have never lost any member of the EFF